Oh, good morning, Joel. How are you?
Good morning. Morning. Countdown is done. It's time to start.
Crazy, historic week. There's a lot to get into today, so let's give it a couple more minutes for people to come on in, and we'll get started. I'm putting a link into the chat box to serve as like a written good timeline for our viewers to check out. Here we go.
Okay. Good morning, Jacqueline. Jacqueline's here.
All right. I just posted a link in the chat box for viewers to click on, and it provides a good overall timeline to how we got to where we're at now. All right, let's give it a little bit longer. Get some more people in. Get some stragglers in from Michael.
Yeah.
So how has your week been?
It's been going all right. Yeah. Got mostly over my illness. I'm still a little bit nasal, but you know.
Oh yeah. Allergies have been crazy recently.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, per the title, it's been a historic week. Crazy week. Before we dive into it, Joel, what are your opening thoughts to Operation Epic Fury?
Oh, Lucas is here.
Well,
My opening thoughts, you talk about a timeline. I'll have to look at your timeline. I don't know how far the timeline goes back.
it explains the last year, how all this led up to where we're at now.
Because my timeline goes back a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I told the story. I think I'm not sure last week if at some point I don't know if it was with you or not, but this goes back, like everyone's saying, 47 years, and it's a very vivid memory of mine in college. And this is just, I like what Trump says. He's finally ending this war, this 47-year-long war, and that's what it's been. So, and it was a lot of presidents could have ended this. You know, we had one bumbling, incompetent president get us into it, but no president since then has really ever finished it.
There's a post made by Scott Pressler on X. It was very short, but it was profound. He said Obama gave Ayatollah billions of dollars. Trump eliminated him.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You know, clarity's our friend, right? It's very clear the two different worldviews going on here, the two
You're
different
not the same.
political philosophies, you name it. So
yeah, no, great summary, Joel. I mean, because here's the thing. Let's back up for a second. This didn't start last week. This started in 1979.
Yep.
Right? It was a violent revolution where the monarchy was, well, wiped out, and it was replaced by this Islamic republic.
Right.
I'm doing air quotes on that.
Yeah.
Since 79 to now, Iran, this is not an opinion, this has been a proven fact. Iran has been the #1 funder of terrorism across the world.
Yeah.
Who funded Al-Qaeda? Who funded ISIS? Who funded the Taliban? It was Iran. And like you said, this whole time we've been through a lot. The Cold War was still going on. We went through the entirety of the global war on terror. We went through the Gulf War. Throughout this entire time, many US presidents did not truly eliminate the problem.
Yeah.
The problem was the Ayatollah in Iran. And what we're seeing right now, it's not just another conflict. This is historic with the capital H. Yeah. Remember our series when we talked about how there needs to be another crusade?
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be like this.
Well, yeah, and you're not wrong. And the thing is, the intel must have been rock solid that they were about to get a nuclear weapon. And I can't believe that. And everybody around there knows it. because we are getting very little. At the beginning, there was a little bit of lip service from the other Arab countries saying, well, this is premature. Trump interrupted the process while they're letting us use their airports and everywhere they can, because a nuclear armed Iran means trouble for everyone in the entire world, except maybe for China and Russia, who would be very surprised when
and we'll get into them in a little bit.
Yeah, they would be very surprised when a nuke went off in their territory too, because we're all infidels. Even the Sunni Muslims are infidels to the Shia Muslims, right?
Right.
So
that's another great point that we'll get into. Yeah. So here's what's so historic about all this. Last year, we were trying to negotiate. Last year, from like February to now, the United States has been trying to negotiate with Iran to come to an arrangement for them to cease their nuclear program, basically.
Yeah.
And all those negotiations were not successful.
Yeah.
And so let's get to today. Well, 7 days ago, give or take, America and Israel launched initial strikes on Iran. And I'm going to show y'all a couple clips from Dr. Steve Turley. It's very easy to get lost in the sauce, to get confused in the weeds, because there's a lot of people on the left and the right who are providing more emotions than facts and evidence on what's happening with Operation Epic Fury. But I gotta say, Dr. Steve Turley has been the most consistent channel for providing accurate updates on what's happening. Like every single day, he has 2 or 3 new videos on this operation. So obviously I won't play all the videos, but I will play a couple opening ones just so everyone can be on the same page for this timeline. So Joel, you ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. So this is 4 days ago, and he gives a brief summary of what we're doing, America and Israel, but then he goes on to say that now the Arabian states are getting involved.
Yeah.
On Saturday, February 28th, the United States and Israel launched the most devastating joint military operation in decades against the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the opening hours of the attack, U.S. B-2 stealth bombers and Israeli Air Force fighter jets dropped over 2,000 bombs across hundreds of Iranian military and regime targets. They hit Revolutionary Guard command centers, air defense systems, missile launch sites, military airfields, naval installations, the entire governing infrastructure, the Iranian regime, was essentially wiped out in a matter of just 24 hours. And that elimination, of course, centered on Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who has ruled Iran with an iron fist since 1989. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike on his Tehran compound. The man.
Now let's just stop there for a moment. Okay, this is not Venezuela. Taking out one guy is not going to be enough. We know this. And what remained after this initial strike involved Iran just lobbing rockets, missiles everywhere, not just at Israel, mind you. Well, there's a problem with that. The problem is when you start attacking other countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon. I'm sorry, Lebanon and then UAE. Qatar, Saudi, these are the countries that typically were the mediators. They were the guys that kind of in the middle. They weren't the aggressors, but they also wanted, some type of negotiations. But when you attack them too, what happens? Well, they join in. And then all of a sudden, Qatar, Saudi, UAE, they join us in defending against Iranian attacks and going on the offensive. So for time purposes, I won't go into full details, but the point is at this moment, America got involved, Israel got involved, and now you have the Arabian states involved, all working together to take out this regime. You have the Americans, the Israelis, and the Arabs working together.
Yeah. And don't forget the Kurds have joined the party too.
Right. And that's nothing
and that's big. And they're actually invading.
Right.
So, yeah. Up
until this point, for America and Israel, it's all been sea and air. There's been no ground involvement, right? Now let's move on to the next one here. This is big. Whenever you have this in this moment, what's the reaction? From the people, not from social media influencers, not from the press, not from the media. What are Iranians thinking?
Take a look at these scenes from inside Iran. Now, when news broke that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had been killed in a joint U.S.-Israeli airstrike on his Tehran compound, something absolutely remarkable happened. Iranians, we're not talking the regime's paid mourners or the organized propaganda rallies, but real, ordinary Iranians poured out into the streets by the thousands. In Tehran, in Isfahan, in Shiraz, people were dancing to loud Persian music, honking car horns, setting off fireworks, chanting freedom from their balconies, and even toppling monuments to Khamenei. But as it turns out, that was all just the beginning. Iranians around the world exploded with joy. In Los Angeles, home to the largest Iranian population outside the Middle East, CBS News reporters were on the ground, and they could not hide what they were seeing and hearing.
We want to say thank you to President Trump. This is the only person who supported us in the last 50 years. Every single people in Iran knew that the only way that this regime is going to go away is that to attack them.
For the first time in their lives, many here are expressing optimism for a new life in Iran.
And so, again, for time purposes, I got to move on. But you have the initial strike. You have Arabian nations joining us in this attack. But then the reaction, not from the left, not from the right, not from the social media influencers, not from the news, but from the actual Iranian people. They're celebrating. They're rejoicing. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Isn't that weird?
You know, it's funny. I showed some footage on my podcast yesterday. Mm-hmm. Not only are the Iranian people celebrating, Iranians here, they're celebrating with Jewish people. A lot of these celebrations, you see a lot of Iranian flags, and then you see some Jewish flags right in the middle, and everybody's cool with that. There's no, hey, get out of here. There's no intimidation of them. There's no saying, we don't want you here.
Right.
It's like, this is the great, like Netanyahu said about a year ago, this is the great Jewish people and the great Persian people. You know, this goes all the way back to King Cyrus, right? Cyrus the Great, saying, you know, and that's what Netanyahu said about a year ago. He said, get to the people of Iran, get rid of your leadership and be the great Persian people that you are.
Right.
Get back to that. So,
right.
And by the way, it just struck me in that footage, somebody had a gigantic Iranian flag hanging around, I guess.
Right.
Were they waiting for this?
Time has come.
Okay, let me go get the big flag, you know? So.
And so what we're seeing here, again, is history unfold. You have these Arabian states that were part of the Abraham Accords in Trump's first term.
That's true.
That Arabian Accord, the Abraham Accords, it wasn't just economic or cultural or political, it was military as well. You have these countries that are very different agreeing to work together for a common good. And this is part of their deal. But there's one more element to this. Isn't it funny how Russia and China have been silent during this entire thing? Well, that's interesting. Why is that?
A growing number of analysts are realizing that this war in Iran is part of a much larger grand strategy. And at the heart of that strategy is China. The key here is that Iran is not simply a rogue state that poses an existential threat to countries in the Middle East and possibly the United States. Fundamentally, it has become a core pillar of China's Middle East strategy. China is Iran's single most important economic partner. Various energy trackers estimate that well over 80%, in recent months, close to 90% of Iran's exported crude has been going straight to China. The New York Times calculated that roughly 5% of Iran's entire GDP now comes just from those oil sales to China. That's how critical this relationship is.
Now, he goes into great detail on the economics, but here's the main takeaway from this video. He talks the reason why China's not getting involved is because guess where China gets the majority of its oil? Not from Iran, from the Arab states. And then, furthermore, she explains how before all this happened, Iran and China had an agreement for China to sell Iran military-grade weaponry.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. Iran's begging for help from China, and China's saying, I'm not getting involved.
Yeah.
Because China's not stupid. They know the bigger picture. And if China gets involved, then that cuts off their entire supply of oil from the Arabian Gulf.
Yeah.
So China's not getting involved. Russia's been silent this whole time as well. And then this part here focuses on what was it? The Kurds that you mentioned before. Yeah. So now we're getting land involvement, not just by the air and sea. The leader of Lebanon has publicly criminalized Hezbollah and said, you're no longer welcome in our country. And then the Kurds
are getting involved. Gang, because in the last 12 hours, this conflict has cracked wide open in ways nobody ever imagined. Let's start with where things stand this morning. So overnight, the IDF launched a massive wave of large-scale strikes across Tehran, targeting what Israel says is a compound housing the headquarters of every major Iranian security organization. The IRGC, the intelligence division, the Basij, all of it, while Iranian soldiers were still operating inside. In fact, we're getting word that Israel has lowered the home front command guidelines from severe to moderate as of today. So literally in a matter of 72 to 96 hours, the Iranian capabilities for missile retaliation has been basically wiped out. But here's the huge development over the last 12 hours. Iran is not just losing the air war. It's about to lose the ground.
So really groundbreaking reporting by our senior producer, Yulia Pobegailova, indicating that Kurdish forces that are currently based in Iraq have launched a ground offensive into Iranian territory. This began already on Monday. We're talking about thousands of Kurdish forces crossing the border, taking offensive, positions in the mountainous area of Mariwan. This is the mountainous range really on the border between Iran and Iraq.
This is huge. Because not only are we engaged in an air and sea war, but now people who were exiled from Iran, like the Kurds, on the western half of Iran are like, all right, we're getting involved now.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, this is crazy. The Azerbaijan is now also getting involved because they have a stake in all this as well. And so, what was it? I want to show this one more. Azerbaijan is getting involved. Italy is getting involved because obviously they have a stake in this too. And then I want to show us last little bit here. That is a good way to end it.
Let's start with the latest on that secret message. According to the New York Times, operatives from Iran's Ministry of Intelligence reached out to the CIA through a third country's intelligence service to to explore possible conditions for ending the war. So, of course, this contradicts the public face of Iran. The leaders of that regime, or what's left of the regime, have been defiant. But apparently, behind closed doors, the intelligence ministry, the regime's inner circle, has been secretly reaching out to the very agency that ironically helped pinpoint Khamenei's compound.
So now, with what little is left of Iran's leadership, there's two parts now. They're split in half. One half, is what we'd expect to see. They want scorched earth no matter what. But the other half is like, yo, we need to stop this because we're all going to be annihilated. And so Dr. Turley is having a live stream right now providing another update. But anyways, that's what's happening. This is not just another never-ending war. This is very different. And Joel, you mentioned a verse from Ecclesiastes earlier. What was that verse?
I have it. I can put it up here.
Cool.
It's, if you want to stop sharing that one, I guess, and then I'll put this one up.
Okay.
So it's Ecclesiastes, and let me make it bigger here. So, and it's the famous verse from Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything, and for a season, every activity under the heavens. Time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot. And then skip to verse 8, a time to keep and a time to throw, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time of love and to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And, through everything that we talked about, what Iran has been doing, like I said, for the past 47 years, this is the time that we're in. It's been brought to this. Peace was not going to work with them. It just wasn't. If it was going to work, it would have worked by now. Right. And they were, like we were talking about, if the intelligence must have been just rock solid that there was a nuclear weapon imminent, several, and that would have been used, and everybody knew it. A lot of people on the left or people on the right even say, war doesn't solve anything. Well, war solves a lot. Okay. War solved our independence. It solves slavery.
It wiped out Hitler.
Yeah. And dealt with, and don't forget the Japanese, how bad they were. There is a time for war. And, there's like everything else in life. You can mishandle peace. You can mishandle war. War has been mishandled a lot. But this is just a different feel because all these other countries, the people who should be entering on the side of Iran are not, or should be at least vocal on the side of Iran are not. Like you said, China and Russia are pretty much silent because they just know, everybody seems to know that this is the time for this war. And the Bible backs it up, and who are we to say? That's what I always tell people about, we don't want wars. We don't want wars. The human condition is war. All through history, all our forefathers, they all had to go through it. What makes us think because we're 21st century Christians or 21st century Americans or Westerners or whatever it is, that we're somehow exempt from the reality that sometimes there is a time for war. And when it's time for war, you better be prepared for war.
Right.
Better do it well.
Right.
And that will tell on this war on how well we do this. And war is an ugly thing. It's a tricky thing. It's not something you can predict. But when it's time for war, you have to be ready and you have to execute it the best you can. And that's one of the things that government is set up to do. That's one of the things government is ordained by God to do. And so far, it looks like it's being done well.
And the biggest opponent to all this has been the argument of, well, we don't want another never-ending war. Compare that to Iraq and Afghanistan. And to be fair, that's fine. Like, I get that argument. I don't want that either. But when you compare how both those started to this, is night and day. not only have we dropped more than double the ordnance than we did compared to going into Iraq, it's a whole different environment.
Yeah.
Iraq, we went in under completely baseless ideas. For Afghanistan, we went there to go find bin Laden. But then Afghanistan turned political. We knew where he was, but you're also dealing with a country that was a country based off of tribes living in caves. Whereas Iran has been a centralized powerhouse since 1979 to now. And the inconvenient fact that keeps sitting there that people don't want to admit is Iran has been a problem since 1979. But like you said, no president has had the testicular fortitude to do something about it.
Yeah.
Until we have Donald Trump. Now, I think he was smart. In his first term, his main focus was getting the Abraham Accords finalized. Do that first.
Right.
Build that economic infrastructure first. So that if things like this happen, you have the military might of American Israel, but then you have the financial might of the Arabian states.
Yeah.
And again, this just goes back to what I find so fascinating. I'll say you have the chill Muslims, the ones in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, who are not cool with the radical Islamists in Iran.
Well, and that goes to, I always say, people talk about Israel, and I said, in the Middle East, if Israel is wiped out, say Israel is wiped off the map, and the next target is the U.S., and let's say by some miracle they either, somehow they strike us with a nuclear bomb, whatever, we're not involved. Once Israel and U.S. are gone from the Middle East, there's not going to be peace in the Middle East. Then it's going to be full on. They're going to go after each other like because this is Islam. There's this schism in Islam between the Shias and the Sunnis, and it's nasty, and it's old, and it's personal, and
that's really what it boils down to is that division.
Yeah.
And there's divisions in other religions too, but not like this. This is so much deeper.
And also we have a strong horse as president, and this is a big thing to those people of that culture.
Right.
There's, you can say George Bush II was a strong, or even the two Bushes were strong, but then they became weak. They didn't look like they wanted to win.
They were politicians.
They're politicians, and they gave us these stupid rules of engagement or whatever. And it was just, the same thing in Vietnam, happened in Vietnam. But Trump's a baby boomer. He remembers Vietnam, and he watched the Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's like, we're not going to do that. We're going to win this.
Trump is a businessman.
And he's a winner, too. What's his big thing? Oh, we're going to get tired of winning. Oh, Donald, I'm tired of winning. Are you going to do this? This is what I mean. You got to do war right. If you're going to do it, win.
And that's what's being called now by the Trump doctrine. The Trump doctrine is we're going to wipe you out.
Yeah.
We've given you a chance. We told you, don't do this. Don't do it. And you did it. And now they're asking for peace. And Trump's like, too late.
Yeah.
Too late. You had your chance. Too late.
Yeah.
And so Trump's made it very clear. He was like, Iranian people, you guys need to choose your next leader. But this whole establishment that's been ruling Iran, it's gone, wiped out, and it will not return.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, when you want to find something historic, this is it. Whether you like it, don't like it, if you're kind of on the fence, it doesn't matter. What's currently happening is historic. And so I'm very interested to see how all this plays out.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the end of the day, no one's in charge. The only one who's truly in charge is our one true King, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That's it.
Amen. That's it. So
on that note, Patriots, I know it's been a pretty thick session.
Yeah, no. But hey, like I said, we live in interesting times. The old curse. May you live in interesting times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, have a great day, Patriots. Have a wonderful weekend. Joel, I will see you next week.
See you next week.
Take
Thanks,
care.
man. Bye. Hey, it's Joel here. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you disagree or have a different thought, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching.